And here we have Killer. Do you want to introduce Killer?
All right, so we've got Bisu and Killer as our next match here. And just to introduce Killer again, um, kind of nicknamed the Mini Dong, being J-Dong's protege on Oz for many years. I think you mentioned before, he was always kind of like a solid, good player for Oz. Never, of course, was quite young though back at the time. Never really won any majors or anything, but was always a solid player. And recently in the Sonic Star League, he's been doing really well. Him and C have kind of got their thing going where they trade games and trade first place prizes. It seems.
Yeah. I'm seeing in chat someone asking background on this. This is a special show match, Jamer. And yeah, Brood War is coming back. This is a serious thing, and there's a lot of money in the scene. But here we go into the game. Bisu v Killer in their side of the bracket of the special show match. Here in the bottom right, white toss, we have arguably the best Protoss player of all time in Brood War. It's Bisu.
And that means at the top right, spawning as the purple Zerg, we've got Killer.
And here we go. This is Bisu not only is one of the best Protoss players, but he's one of the players with the most, I'd say, passionate fan bases. A lot of people like Flash, but people tend to like Flash because he's ridiculously good. People like Bisu because he's ridiculously good, and also like he has quite the allure of a handsome man. So I'm sure we have quite a few. I'm sure we have quite a few Bisu fans rooting for him on this game.
Oh yeah, lots of Bisu fans. Although I think who was it really wanted to see Killer beat Bisu in this match. Can't remember who that was, but definitely we've got fans on either side, and regardless of what happens, I'm pretty sure that we're going to see some good games here. Gateway first, though, coming down for Bisu. So already starting off with some really not standard play.
Yeah, and pool first from our Zerg, not hatch first.
Yeah, not hatch first. Although it's fairly common to throw down the pool first in PvZ.
Okay.
Certainly to fend off cannon rushes and some early aggression. But he's definitely going to put down his hatchery right after that.
So they are both cross positions. They will both scout each other second. What do you think the reaction is going to be from Killer when he sees his Gateway first build?
I think he's going to be able to get a bunch of Zerglings. Looks like he's morphing in 6. I'm guessing those are all Zerglings. So that's going to be quite enough to fend off. I'm pretty sure it's going to be enough to fend off the early Zealots that Bisu is going to produce. Although Killer, he might not catch wind of this, though. He's going to scout him really late.
Yeah.
The last possible moment. So it kind of depends on how many Zerglings versus drones he decides to produce. But 6 Zerglings coming out here for Killer, and that's going to be enough to fend off the Zealot.
Is Bisu going to make a second Zealot behind this? Because 2 Zealots against 6 Zerglings, I think the Zealots come out ahead, right?
Yeah, it really comes down to micro and just proper unit placement. But yeah, this is... I don't know what to make this. Is Bisu going to be able to wall this off? Yeah.
Yeah, he walls it off, and he's got the Zealot there, so he's safe. And now Killer's Lings are kind of out of position, so the Zealot's just going to walk in here, at least get a full scout, and maybe get a couple drones, right?
Yeah, Killer walking across the entire map with his Zerglings, and then just turning around, deciding to use them for defense here. And
let's see the micro. Let's see it.
Yeah. Killer's mission here is to not lose a drone. He doesn't want to lose a drone to the Zealot. Just wants to kind of slowly kill them with Lings.
Yeah, 2 more Zealots coming across, though. He may need to throw down a Sunken. 3 Zealots is going to be difficult to deal with if they get into a good micro position. And behind that mineral line, you can't get the surround on them, so they're going to do quite a bit of damage here, maybe. Although, yeah, good micro
maybe.
there.
yeah, Bisu gonna turn back to this third base now. And that's probably going to get Killer to produce maybe a few more Zerglings, although it does seem now that Bisu has stopped Zealot production and is transitioning into a more standard game here. Yeah, Bisu gonna turn back to this third base now. We're also seeing the third base taken at, well, what would be the natural base for many players that aren't Zerg, but often we see the Zerg players taking the spawning locations on the opposite side. So Killer not opting to do that.
Lair timing go up. He should pretty much get the Spire right when it's done, and we don't see a Stargate yet from Bisu.
Yeah, so Bisu's going like all out non-standard here. He's throwing down the Citadel, and might be trying to. This could be like an early, most likely going to be used for DTs, and probably throw Killer off guard. But without the Stargate, he's not going to get as much scouting as he would normally probably like to get. Although with his early Zealots, he might be happy to kind of forego that.
Yeah, and there's quite a few links here moving across the map. They're not going to be able to bust in by any means, but he may at least be able to get prevent anything else from coming out. Although now he's pulling him back to try and take out these two Zealots, which are still up in Killer's third, being quite annoying, just sort of disrupting the mining operations, even without killing much.
Yeah, so Bisu's getting some info of this. He's getting a sense of what Killer's drone saturation is, and if he needs to make any more units to fend off an attack. But there's a bunch of gateways going down in Bisu's main right now, so I'm pretty sure he's looking to hit a two-base timing of some sort here. Zealot leg speed definitely gonna kick in here soon, probably. If he needs to make any more units to fend off an attack.
And yeah, he knows exactly what he's up against. So
pretty sure he's looking to.
At this point, it's just whether he can make the right decisions and then micro correctly.
Yeah, and Killer has definitely noticed now that there's no Corsairs out. So I mean, he's got to assume that there's probably going to be some DTs on the way, or perhaps an Archon or something like that. Yeah, Zealot leg speed now kicked in. So this is going to be. It might be difficult for Killer to hold off. This is I mean, I've seen this from Bisu a lot recently, getting really quick Zealot legs and hitting a pretty strong early window where he can get a lot of damage done.
Yeah, and these links just really can't fight this many lots unless they get the perfect surround, and even then he'll end up probably losing. He's got the Scourge out, so he's looking to snipe. He's looking to snipe a Corsair, right? But
the Corsair,
no Corsair coming.
That isn't there. Yeah, he's going to want to keep his hatchery alive, and I think he's probably going to have enough to do that. Oh, man.
And look at this.
Lots of dancing back and forth.
Every time that we've seen any of Killer's bases, he's had drones pulled away from the mineral line. Like, he may not be losing a lot of drones, but he's losing a lot of mining time. So his economy is not very strong right now. And here's the engage. He's getting a decent surround with the Lings. The Sunken's doing a lot of hits, but the Zealots are just too strong. Zealot's so strong, man. He's killing everything.
Oh, man. It was so close, but it looks like in the end, Killer barely does he have enough to hold that Sunken being so
Hero
important.
Sunken. He's gonna hold, but he did lose a handful of drones in that battle.
Definitely. Probably a worthwhile sacrifice here.
Absolutely.
And,
I mean, Zealots are pretty cheap.
And holding it off with just the perfect amount of forces. So that was pretty good. Although, as you mentioned, he did have to sacrifice a bunch of drones. So in the end, was it worth it?
Yeah. Although now the Hydras are starting to pop out, and assuming he doesn't get those Hydras in the front of the lines, he should be able to start. Although here comes the Archon, so
yeah,
both players are starting to tech up a little bit and moving into a little bit more of a weird sort of mid game is where we're at right now.
Yeah, I think Bisu's probably looking to do some damage here. Although I think he has a pylon planted at his,
Yeah, he's going to take his third.
At the 6 o'clock location there. So by keeping the pressure on, though, he's might be keeping Killer on his heels here. Um, and by taking the third, he's at the same time as applying the pressure, he's looking to put himself in a good position going into the late game.
Yeah, I think he realized that with Killer had a pretty good SimCity up. He had the Hydras out. He wasn't going to do too much more damage with those with that largely Zealot-based army. So he's just pulling back, taking his third. Although it's in a little trouble, but he'll be fine here with his SimCity with the Zealots there to back up. So he's sort of stepping back from his weird opening, and he's looking to go into a little bit more of a normal game at this point.
Yeah, really good timing. I mean, everything lining up perfectly here for Bisu with the cannons and
he's
the
gonna
reinforcements coming up. Oh,
Oh, he doesn't quite get
trying to
it.
splash, gets
There
it
it
though.
is.
and
He needed
yeah,
one more hit.
There we go. Yeah,
Great
for those
play.
that don't know, using the splash damage there from the Archon on the Zealot to get the lurker that I can't see. Because going for a build like this is observers probably aren't. They might be delayed, so he's not going to have any mobile detection anytime soon. And he'll have to. There we go. Observatory finish though,
There it
so
is, yeah.
he'll be fine with that.
Yeah, and Bisu, while we were talking there, he sniped another lurker with just Zealots, so a little bit sloppy there, losing... I mean, the first lurker kill was just a nice play by Bisu, but the second one was, I think, unnecessary. And now Bisu, without those lurkers, even losing just two, gives Bisu a little more confidence to kind of move up and be aggressive again, or at least a posture. He may not move in, but he may, and it looks like he's going in here.
Yeah, the two lurkers, even with just two lurkers, it's probably going to be enough because lurkers are so good against zealots. He needs dragoons to engage the lurkers. Not many Protoss units are really effective at dealing with lurkers.
Yeah, you gotta have goons or reavers maybe.
Yeah, definitely Reavers, obviously, but definitely want some. I mean, without Reavers, which is often the situation, you often need lots of Dragoons to range the. Make sure you're engaging them one at a time. But
He's being pretty
Bisu moving in
persistent
here,
He wants to move in, and he's on top of the lurkers now. He's on top of them. Mutas against Archons is not where you want to be as a Zerg player. The splash damage will just eat those up, and it looks like Bisu's gonna maybe not quite break, and he's gonna get that other Archon out of there. But he's gonna run the lots in and get a good scout.
Yeah, good defensive play here from Killer. Bisu's got he pushed some forces into the main to kind of just check what's going on there. Again, he doesn't have the Corsairs that he normally would with the scouting around the map.
Yeah.
And Killer kind of identifying that as an opportunity to build mutas. Without the Corsairs there, Killer can certainly assert control over these skies here.
Yeah, but he's got to be careful with them because Archons and Goons, and now there's High Templar out there, so he can lose these quickly if he's not careful. There's a big storm, and I think he lost one muta there, and the rest are probably pretty softened up.
Yeah, pretty softened up from that storm and Archon hits. And I don't think Killer's gonna be able to accomplish much with these mutas here.
I think you're right, and he's just going to have to kind of tuck tail and make sure he doesn't lose them. If you look at the mini-map here, until those mutas kind of went across the map, Killer hadn't been on Bisu's side of the map in quite a while, whereas Bisu has had pretty much full knowledge of what Killer's been doing almost the entire game. So, Bisu is kind of calling the shots here. He knows what his opponent's doing, and he's reacting pretty well. He's always have the right units coming out at the right time. And
Killer has a lot of forces now on opposite sides of Bisu's map, and he's not going to bring them back. He's going to engage Bisu's natural while Bisu's also going for Killer's natural. Two big fights going on right now.
Yeah. I don't think this is going to work out for Killer. I think he's going to take a lot of damage at his front, and he's going to have a tough time. He's going to have a tough time breaking. He may. No, I don't think he's even going to be able to break this. He's going to have to pull back, I think.
Oh, it's so close. I mean, Bisu's army reduced mainly down to Dragoons, so if you can pump a lot of Hydra's pretty cost effective against Dragoons.
Can we get a Storm off? Maybe not, but he's not really going to need it. Yeah, there's 3 Hydras here. Now there's 2, and now there's 1. Like, this attack has failed, whereas if you look at the minimap, Bisu has quite the army that's just going to march right into the natural. And
Storm on the drones.
Big storm.
Yeah, gets 3 drones. Killer does have some good lurkers. He was very mindful of that to position some of his lurkers who deny mining at the 3rd, but is there a response for the army and his natural?
I don't know. And now Bisu's stuck. He can produce units from his main and his 3rd. but Bisu's in the middle there, so he's going to try and pincer him. There's a battle going on. I hope you can see it.
Killer does have some good lurkers. He was very mindful.
Show us the natural. There it is. This is a strong
And
army, though.
GG.
There's the GG.
Yeah, Killer identifying there's nothing he can really do about that army, but
Yeah.
a really kind of cute game there with the coming down to the two battles in opposite ends of the map. The armies kind of going around each other, and nice game. So Bisu advancing to what I'm guessing will be the final match, perhaps
I
in
guess
this special
so.
match.
The final best of one, and this will be it'll be a PvP. It'll be Bisu Pusan.
Yeah, Bisu Pusan, I guess is what we're gonna see. I don't think that they'll do the losers match. At least I'm not entirely sure of that.
I'm not making any more predictions, man. This match is too special. It's unpredictable.
It's a really special match.
Let's talk for a second about those two engagements that were happening, one at each player's natural at the end. At Bisu's natural, Killer had a lot of Hydras, and the observer showed us a view, and there was only a handful of goons. And then we jumped back up to the top left, and when we came back down, there was only 4 or 5 Hydras left. What happened down there? I want to say that he must have gotten off a good storm, or maybe even 2, because only the goons alone shouldn't be able to take out that many Hydras that quickly. So what do you think happened?
I think Killer kind of engaged Bisu's natural at a pretty strong defensive position for Bisu. He had a bunch of cannons up, so he had to spend some time taking down the cannons. And as you mentioned, Bisu probably got a lot of good storms off, which just melt Hydras. It was pretty difficult to see because of the two battles going on at the same time. But that really probably just comes down to Killer's army just not being as strong as Bisu's army in his own main.
Right.
Or own natural. And at that point, Killer was on 3 bases to Bisu's 3 bases, so not a good position there.
Yeah.
I can't really fault him for taking the engagement in Bisu's natural because he kind of had to do something, and taking the gamble to try to get a lot of damage done in Bisu's base and to kind of maybe camp his production facilities was something that would have been good if it had succeeded.
Absolutely, and don't discount the fact that he did invest a lot in those mutas. He made roughly 8 mutalisks, and that's a pretty big investment. And they really didn't do anything. When they first came out, he lost 1 or 2 to the Archons at the front, I think. And then he kind of lost another one to an Archon down in the bottom right. The rest got hit by a storm, so those big, expensive units that you want to use to fly around and harass ended up kind of engaging more in head-to-head battle
definitely.
and not doing anything really substantial.
Yeah, I mean, good. Again, I can't really fault him on that decision. Bisu didn't produce any Corsairs, so generally when that's the case, there's a big opportunity there for Zerg to establish, lots of map control and often a lot of harassment in the mineral lines.
Yeah.
But Bisu was ready for that. He had cannons and all his mineral lines up. He had a bunch of Archons up, and was able to, as you mentioned, get a lot of hits off on them as they were flying to his base, along with a storm to soften them up. So, yeah, the Muta switch not working out for Killer.
Yeah, if he had invested that money and that gas in particular in another 4 or 5 lurkers, may have been a different game.
Yeah, it could have been. There were a lot of really close fights at Killer's 3rd and natural, coming down to the drone micro on the units. So it was really close, and yeah, a few more lurkers with better use out of that gas could have really paid off for Killer.
Yeah.
And so I guess for our next match, we're looking at a PvP. Pusan and Bisu. I mean, anything can happen here. It's PvP.
PvP, baby.
It was really close, and yeah, more lurkers with better use.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect. I mean, frankly, I don't think anybody would have guessed that Pusan would win this special match. And hey, after only 1 game, now he's in the finals, so he's got to be feeling pretty good.
This is a special match. Remember,
It's special.
and you know what, Pusan's. You know what I'm gonna call? I'm gonna call DTs from Pusan again.
Okay.
It just worked out so well for him against C. I mean, Who could have predicted that?
Hey, it's you never know. I'm not taking anything off the table. But Bisu just showed that he has a few tricks up his sleeve of his own. He doesn't just want to go into a standard macro game every time. He'll do gateway first and make speed lots and ram them into all your bases and make you pull drones and do crazy stuff. So, these guys are doing honor to the name of Special Match.
They really are.
Yeah. Landowner in the Twitch chat, no, we have one more game here. We have the finals coming up. It's going to be Bisu against Pusan. So hang around and watch one more game.
Yeah, man, you're gonna get to see Bisu again. So that's always a good thing.
Never too much Bisu. Um,
They really are.
do you actually know? Do you actually know Korean? Oh, it says special match finals right there, so I can just read the English. Because I was gonna say, I kind of hope we get a losers match.
You're gonna get to see Bisu again.
Yeah, Killer versus Z would be nice.
So that's always good.
But you know, I'm okay with that.
I'm okay
with that. We'll just get the final. But yeah, Pusan's DT's coming out of Pusan. That was pretty cool. You know, not getting like any damage done really with the DTs. I think he was able to delay C's third expansion from coming up just a little bit.
He was.
But his good play, I think, really came in the form of just distracting C from the control of his main army and really able to kind of pick away at the mech blob and eventually overwhelm him.
He did pick off that one tank with that first DT, so he didn't get in and kill SCVs, which is kind of what you ideally want to do with your DT. But a tank is a pretty big win, especially in the beginning when Terran is first amassing that critical mass of tanks. If you can chip away at it early, every single tank you lose just delays your ability to push out into the map.
And eventually overwhelm him.
He did pick off that one tank with that first DT, so he didn't get in and kill SCVs, which is kind of what you ideally want to do with DT. And I'm guessing we have about 5, maybe 10 minutes here until the next, until the finals, just based on how long it was between the last game. So all of our viewers out there, grab a drink, use the bathroom, brush your teeth. Let's be healthy oral hygienists here. And then,
and floss your teeth too. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, I never floss enough. I'm on like a 4-day-a-week schedule. I need to get up to every day, man. I need to be flossing on the daily.
I know, man. I say the same thing myself. Every second day.
Every second day.
Or so, but it's like no. Although I read something pretty good the other day that really motivated me to floss my teeth more often.
Do share.
I think it was something about how like flossing your teeth isn't really about so much cleaning the ridges of like between your gums and your teeth so much as it is preventing like new bacteria and colonies from developing in those spaces. So it's also a kind of like a preventative measure to make sure that stuff just can't get established. So I don't know, just the idea of there being like, a Zerg colony infesting your gums, not really fun.
Okay, I was gonna say it's like burrowing a ling at your opponent's third, so they can't put a CC there. We're kind of on the same mindset there.
Yeah, exactly. So get rid of your burrowed lings, people.
Yeah.
But yeah, so surprising. Just best of ones. I mean,
yeah.
You almost never see that anymore.
Especially with something. I mean, they put a decent amount of production value into this. They got a stage. It looks like they rented a venue or something, and why not?
But they had to play that. They had to play that game of the masks, man.
Oh yeah, that was the game of masks, the game of no face. That was what the event was really for.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's too bad because I mean, there's a lot of randomness and risk going on here. So, the games can be really volatile, and often you ideally want best of 3 to really determine to get some say on at all, like some sort of determination of who is the better player at that point. But hey, Best of ones also, pretty quick and snappy
going on here. So
and very tense too.
Yeah, it is tense, and it forces best of threes. Sometimes you see players kind of come out hiding their best strats in game one, or maybe
Yeah.
whatever the case may be. But best of one, it's like, okay, players, you got to bring out your best strat, and you got to do it right here, and you got to perform. So there's a certain amount of drama to that I can appreciate.
and very tense too.
Landowner, Bisu and Killer out. No, Bisu and Pusan coming up next in our grand finals.
The grand finals, aka Game 3 of the special match.
Yeah, that's the grand finals, man. We can say that now.
You can say it.
We've come a
prize
long way.
pool? What's the prize pool for this? I think I saw it was like a couple $100 maybe for first place.
Grand finals.
Some nice cash in your pocket.
I don't see it listed on the Team Liquid page, so I'm not sure.
Okay, maybe I'm thinking of something else, but I thought there was some amount of balloons, which are like the Africa currency, right? It's balloons.
Yeah, it's balloons, which are like, I don't know, a few hundred of them is like a dozen or so bucks.
Yeah.
What the currency
So
exchange rate is.
if you're watching someone on Africa, like, can you tip them balloons? Is that how it works?
I think you can.
Viewers can tip the player. Okay.
That's
yes.
right. Yeah, they just often get lots of balloons after.
Yeah, it's
Well, let's be real. Bisu gets lots of balloons.
Bisu's got all the balloons. He's gonna float away. He's got so many balloons.
Yeah, if life is a game of who has the most marbles at the end, Bisu's got that covered.
that's right.
Balloons are a great way of showing kids that too much of a good thing is a bad thing. Because like, have you ever seen a kid not want a balloon? No, kids love balloons.
Yeah.
Do you mean like if you have too many helium balloons, they'll like float away?
Yeah,
At the end.
kids want all those balloons. Although, have you ever seen anybody in more just like anguish, just straight up anguish, than a kid that just lost his helium balloon and is watching it float away? That's like a look of pure human emotion right there. Like the look on a kid's face, watching his balloon just float off, never to be seen again.
Yeah, real moment of desperation.
Pure desperation, pure sadness.
Take me with you.
Yeah. Why is there evil in the world? All right, let's get this game going. Special match. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, banner hype.
Desperation,
The only Brood War player's name that I can recognize in Korean is Flash. So I can tell you that neither of these players are going to be Flash.
That's right. It has a circle
With
and
the
the first
vertical
character.
line, yeah.
Yeah, the circle of the vertical. Yeah, that's me too.
Banner hype.
That's how I recognize Flash's name.
Yeah.
Although this is a PvP, so we should be really mindful during the intros as to who spawns as which player.
That's a good point.
That's right. It has the.
You don't want to get them mixed up because we're not going to get any help from the overlay.
No.
Yeah, that's me too. That's how I recognize Flash too. Although this is a PvP, so we should be really mindful during the intros as to who spawns as which player.
That's a good point.
You don't want to get them mixed up.
I think the first Brood War game that I ever watched, professional game, was the GOM TV. What was it called? Like, it wasn't called
Flat.
GSL back then. It was like the GOM TV something Star League. It was it was solo cast by Tasteless. He was doing it by himself.
What year? What year are we talking here?
This must have been like around 2006, 7, maybe 8.
Okay, so definitely not like really early 2000s with like Gurr and all them.
No, not that early. It was definitely Brood War, and I remember Flash was in the tournament. It was like one of Flash's breakout tournaments, and the flavor of the month map at that time was Heartbreak Ridge, which I don't know if you know that map. That's a hilarious map where it's possible.
Yeah.
Like, your main is encircled by a raised ridge, so it's possible to be like blocked into your own main. and then there's like another raised path that goes like kind of around the circumference of the map. So like a lot of wonky stuff can happen and some hilarious games.
Yeah, isn't that game that map like bad for Terran in like TVP, or am I
I,
thinking of another map?
I couldn't even tell you because the only games, yeah, it was the GOM TV Classic, and I think this was season 2. Thanks Crimson. I couldn't even tell you because back then when I was watching it, I didn't understand what I was watching. I just knew it was awesome, so I couldn't tell you like what's bad for who.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's a hilarious map. That map, and then the other map that will always hold a special place in my heart is Destination. If you remember that one, it's like a very
Yeah.
vertical map.
Oh yeah, no, I know.
That's a fun one.
Yeah, what about the island maps, man? Like
Those
around
are
that
old.
time.
Those
Yeah,
are old.
I guess that's even before 2006.
Back
But
when
oh
you had to
man,
rush dropships, like just do everything is possible in your power to get a dropship as quick as possible.
I was looking at a match from that cool and It's called Cool and Unusual StarCraft, and you can look it up. It's a really cool thread on Team Liquid with a list of a bunch of different StarCraft matches that are, highly rated, but not just them for being good games, but for kind of showcasing unusual styles and strategies and kind of interesting stuff. And there was this like island map game on there. It was pretty fun. A
Yeah.
lot of cool games in that thread. Would definitely recommend if you're interested in any kind of quirky StarCraft to check it out.
What were some of the other weird things in Brood War history? I'm trying to think as far as like a map goes or like gameplay goes. I mean, it wasn't, a lot of the stuff that we now take for granted, like wasn't always known or used. Like here's a good example. Like in TVZ, using dropships. Like for a long time, no one used dropships in TVZ, and then along came this guy called Boxer, and he was like, "No, wait, guys, dropships are actually awesome." Um, and now, like every single TVZ, you'll see Terran dropping Marines and medics into Zerg bases and being annoying and doing harass. But like Boxer, like really innovated that strategy.
Yeah. Yeah, we
Or
definitely have a lot of innovators. I mean, like what Savior with the didn't he pretty much kind of like got the standard game that we see
Mhm.
Zerg players use against Terran players, like the three hatch into mutas, into mid game transition to lurkers, into hive tech swarm.
Yeah.
Kind of like the general procedure that Zerg players use to try to like not die to Terran players.
Yeah. And
It's
there was a
basically kind of
time
like popularized.
there was a time when Mutamicro like wasn't a thing. I don't know when Mutamicro was discovered. I know that it's like a kind of obscure player called Shark who's credited with discovering it. I don't think he was particularly good at it. Um, but I don't like. Do you know what year Mutamicro like became a thing that you had to do in TVZ like or in
Yeah,
GVT?
I'm not
Because
sure,
it
but
wasn't always that way.
that must have been really bad for Zerg before then, though. Because I mean, if you can't micro your mutas now, and like especially like the matchup like ZVT,
Yeah, you just
you're
you choose a different race.
pretty much you're not gonna get much done. Like you're gonna have to go at lurkers each game.
Yeah, like what else? Like what else do you do if you can't mute it? If you can't, I remember. Okay, I remember. This is funny. Well, I don't know if it's that funny. Well, you tell me. I remember I had been watching a lot of StarCraft, and I had been watching a lot of Zerg players, and like I was watching their Mutamicro, and I was like, that's amazing. They're literally killing an entire SCV line, and then entire lines of Marines one by one and not losing a single Muta. Like that's like the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I'm gonna go on BattleNet and play a game, and I'm gonna do Mutamicro. So I go on BattleNet, I choose Zerg, and I'm not a Zerg player. I totally fudge my build order, but eventually I get my 9 mutas out, and I'm like, I'm gonna march over to the Terran's base and micro these.
Right.
And like, I'm so late on my build order. The guys are like 4 turrets up, like a bunch of Marines. She just stims and my mutas die, and he types lol, and I rage quit. And I rage quit the game, and I never tried to Mutamicro
Nice.
again in my
Did
life.
you know like how to mute a micro and like to select an overlord in your control group and all that?
I mean, I knew that you had to do that, but let me tell you, it's still not easy to mute a micro. Like it's
Oh
still
god,
incredibly difficult.
it's really difficult. I mean, I've tried it before, kind of, but yeah, it's just it requires a lot of work to a lot of concentration and like to do that while having a macro and everything. You
Yeah,
know,
and then you
really
gotta like
break.
corral your suiciding overlords and turn them around. And there's so much going on.
Yeah.
Vulture micro, that was my bread and butter. That was so much easier. That's like press patrol and then click.
it requires a lot of work to a lot of
Yeah, I mean, microing mutas just seems so difficult too because Terran has a lot of Marines out, and if you're gonna fly them over any sizable amount of Marines, you're in trouble.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, there. If you look away for a second, you can lose your mutas, and if you lose your mutaflock against a Terran, then the Terran's response is okay. Now gonna march across the map and I'm gonna attack you
Yeah,
because you have nothing to keep me here.
definitely. The mutas really act as kind of like the deterrent to keep the from moving out. No doubt.
Yeah, that's always one of the more fun dynamics to watch in TVZ. Is oh, do you remember? Do you remember? I want to say it was an OSL, and it was the one that was sponsored by like an airplane or an airline.
Oh
Someone in the
yeah,
chat,
Korean
Air
Air.
OSL,
Yeah,
and they had one of the as a thank you to the sponsor, one of their maps they designed it to look like an airplane. It was absolutely ridiculous, and the players spawned like literally right next to each other by air. The only way to walk to your enemy's base was to like kind of go around the whole map. But if you built mutas, you could just fly to your opponent's base in about 2 seconds. So there was just like ridiculous games where Zerg players went muta and the Terran player like just died. It was one of the most ridiculous maps ever.
Oh man,
Don't.
that reminds me of that other map in StarCraft 2. Oh.
What's that one?
Oh, the one where you're like separated, where you spawn really close to each other, but you have to go the long way around by ground.
Oh,
Yeah,
Scrap Station.
yeah.
Yeah, this was like Scrap Station for Brood War, but it was like arguably even worse. And it was just made worse by the fact that they were doing it to make it look like an airplane. Like, come on, guys, come on. If you're gonna make a ridiculous airplane map, at least make it somewhat balanced.
Oh man, I don't you don't think they had their balance team on that, man?
No, I don't think so. They probably, you know what it was? It was probably like the Korean Air CEO had a son who was an aspiring Brood War map designer. And the CEO was like, my son's the best map designer ever. He's going to make this airplane map, and you must use
Yeah.
it. And they couldn't say no, because he had the cash.
you don't think they had their balance team on?
I like to give,
Yeah,
because,
well,
because overall, like, map design by real, like, for maps that were actually used in tournaments over many years was like always phenomenal. There was really great maps, and they were never like terribly imbalanced. Like this, and then you just have this one ridiculous outlier of an airplane map. So I like to give the map designer team credit and say it must have been someone else that did that. That wasn't
yeah.
his fault.
Shout out to the map designer team.
Hey man, underappreciated, but a critical linchpin. Without maps, you can't play StarCraft.
It's true. Maps add like an entirely different dynamic to there's matchups, but all the matchups don't take place in a vacuum. You always have to play them out on some sort of particular map, and depending on how that map is structured, can turn out very differently.
What if you had a map that just had zero terrain, like zero ramps, zero terrain, zero elevation, no water? It was just like a big blank dirt map, and players spawned on opposite corners. And then you had like somewhat standard placement of
Like Blood
of
Blast?
bases. Yeah, but isn't there some terrain in
There
Blood Blast?
probably is.
Yeah, I'm talking like no terrain. You can walk anywhere. Like, what race would be best in that situation?
I'm gonna say Zerg because I mean it just seems like there's so many. Okay, a lot of the fundamental features of maps that we have today are kind of like, okay, you have your main and you have your natural, and generally there's some sort of choke protecting either your natural or your main. Like there's a ramp to your main and then like some sort of choke at your natural.